Welcome to the Sublime Soiree. I'm Sue.
And I'm Linda, and we are so excited to have Karen Ehman, author, with us today. And Karen, this entire month, we're celebrating the month of love by really exploring all sorts of ways to sacrificially love our spouse, our family, our friends, and even new acquaintances while experiencing great joy in the process. And when we saw your book, Make Their Day, 101 Simple, Powerful Ways to Love Others Well, we really just felt like we met a kindred spirit, because exactly what we were exploring was exactly what you were sharing in your book.
Yes, so thank you again for talking with us today. And I would like to tell our viewers a little bit about you. Karen Ehman is a Proverbs 31 speaker, and she's a New York bestseller. She's described as profoundly practical and engagingly funny, downright real, and has a passion to help women live their passion and their priorities to serve God and their family. She writes for Encouragement for Today, an online devotional that reaches 4 million women. And she is also a writer and contributor to the First 5 app, which is a Bible study app. She's authored 16 books and Bible studies, and her most recent devotional came out in the fall with Ruth Schwank, and it's called Settle My Soul, 100 Quiet Moments to Meet with Jesus. And it was just selected as 2020's devotional and gift book of the year. How exciting. She recently released a Bible study with Lifeway on the book of Philippians called What Matters Most. She is the wife of Todd, her college sweetheart, the mother of 3 adult children, and a mother-in-law to 2. She enjoys shopping for kitchen vintage wares, enjoys cheering on the Detroit Lions, and loves to gather around her mid-century table.
And Karen, we were just really interested to know, how did God lead you into the life of writing?
Well, I've always loved writing, and I've always loved speaking. And to me, writing is just speaking on paper. And talking was something that was always pointed out about me. Even when I was young, my teachers used to say, man, can she talk? You know, she talks a little too much. She talks when the teacher's supposed to be talking. And then they also would just comment on my writing. So there might be, we're supposed to write 2 paragraphs. Well, I would write a poem. Like, I always wanted to take it another step further. So it's just something I've always wanted to do. And I had a goal of publishing a book by the time I turned 40. That's what I wanted to do. And my first book came out when I think I was 37. So.
Wow, that's so neat. What was the motivation for writing your book, Make Their Day?
It's a process and a viewpoint of life that I saw my mom live out. My mom and I are extremely different. I mean, we couldn't be less alike. I love to talk. My husband always teases that if I pass away before he does, he's going to put a period on my tombstone, because I'll finally be done talking. Because he's like, you never have any periods. There's just like more to come all the time. But my mom is a very quiet, unassuming, shy person. I don't think she'd scream if she were on fire. And she's not a big talker, but she's really good at listening. And she used to just listen. I call it listening for heart drops. She would hear people say something that would reveal their heart, even though they really didn't say it. She would kind of listen between the lines. If they said maybe that they had some medical tests coming next Thursday and they didn't say, and I'm really worried about it, and I'm, upset and I'm nervous and I'm anxious, but she would kind of listen between the lines. And so she'd write herself a little note on her calendar that next Thursday she needed to call that person or send up some flowers or something. She was just really good at that. And I remember one day coming home from middle school, extremely upset. I think I had not gotten invited to the popular girls' slumber party. I think that's what the issue was. And I was processing it with my mom at the dining room table. And I'll never forget what she said to me. She said, you know what, honey, whenever you feel like life's not going your way, circumstances have gotten you down and you're kind of feeling depressed and down and out, you need to remember this. There's always somebody out there who has life worse off than you. So here's what you do. You go find that person and you do something to make their day. And in a strange way, it ends up making yours as well. Because you see, we do the opposite. Like, we have our eyes, especially in this day and age of social media, we have our eyes on people who seem to have life better than us. they seem to have a bigger house and a more romantic marriage, or maybe they have a husband and we don't, or it seems like their children are more well-behaved and are winning student of the month when ours, the only time the school calls us is because our kid's in the principal's office again. Not that that's ever happened to anybody I know, but I call it coming apart at the seams, because it seems like everyone else has a better life than us. Instead, we need to do what my mom did. Quit looking at those people that seem to have life better than you and go find somebody who surely doesn't and do something to make their day. So I've tried to live like this. I've gathered a lot of ideas over the years, whether it's for strangers or family members or people at church. And I had a lot of friends say, you should write those all and put them in a binder and then let me borrow your binder. Well, then my publisher approached me and said, after I wrote my last book, which was a 40-day challenge on opening your heart and home, they said, what if you did like a little idea book and just gave a lot of little ideas that people could pick up? And so that's kind of how the whole book came about.
That's so neat. And honestly, as we read through the book, we were sharing with you earlier that we just loved every single one and have written in the margins and just wanted to employ every one. But we're going to share just a few. And this is not an exhaustive list, but we loved the 30th surprise party that your friends threw for you. We loved the modern day foot washing that your family did for you. The Juneteenth bike parade. We just thought that was such a great idea. And then the mugs and muffins was that's something we just kind of wanted to go out and employ right away. And friends, you're going to have to go get the book so that you can find out what all those things were, because they're really fun ideas. But I wanted to ask you, as you were putting together the list of ideas, were there some that kind of rose to the top of the list for you? Were there some ideas that you just like, oh, I love that one? Or did you just love every single one?
Probably my favorite is the one I've done the most in my life. It's something I first did, my goodness, let me think. It was like 11 years ago when my mother-in-law turned 80. And then I did it again when a few years later, my own mom turned 75. And what it is to make a manuscript of memories for somebody on their birthday or their anniversary. And so, for example, for my mom, I counted up how many people were in our family. And then I took the number 75, that's how old she was turning, and I divided it. So I told each family member how many memories they needed to come up with, and they had to email them to me. And then I made just this one long document of all these different memories in order from the different people, her children, her, son-in-law, her daughter-in-law, her grandkids, her siblings that were still living. And I put it in this book. I grabbed some pictures too. I'm not a good scrapbooker. I'm not very crafty, but I did grab a couple pictures of her with the person who left the memories. And then I gave it to her for her birthday. And I think on the cover, I called it, 75 memories for Margaret's 75th, or Grandma Margaret's 75th. Didn't cost me much money at all. Probably cost less than $5 just to buy like I got a report slipcover that's like clear on the front.
Yes.
But she absolutely loved it. There were memories that she had completely forgotten about. Like one that I put down was, I remember specifically being in elementary school and being in our unfinished basement, roller skating around the pool table we had downstairs with, now this is going to show my age, with those old roller skates used to have that adjusted. They were metal and adjusted. Yes. Okay. So she came down to do laundry. She had a basket of laundry in her hands. She came down the stairs and I was whizzing around the pool table and I said, it's too bad you're too old to roller skate, Mom. And now when I counted up, she was like 36, 35, something like that, which seems really young to me being the age I am now. But anyhow, she said, oh yeah. And my quiet, shy, never draws attention to herself mom, she put those roller skates on and she roller skated around the pool table. Well, I wrote that as one of my memories and she hadn't even remembered it until I mentioned it. So my mother-in-law, she's 91 now. She said she still gets out, she calls it the book. She still gets out the book once a week to read through the memories, and she laughs and she cries. And both of them have said it was, one of their most favorite gifts that they ever had. And I've done it for friends. I've done it for other people. And it's even fun to do like for coworkers. If somebody's retiring or something, it's pretty versatile and it's pretty inexpensive.
Yeah. Oh, that's so neat. I love that.
Wow. I love that idea too. Karen, one of my favorite ideas is your $5 no holler date night. And I was thinking about that with Valentine's Day last weekend. What a fun idea. The other idea that you shared it's in your new book, or a book that came out, I think in 2018, How to Stay Crazy in Love with the Love That Drives You Crazy. You mentioned a getting to know you date night. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yes. Actually, if people go to my website, KarenEhman.com, my last name is spelled Ehman, you can get the $5 date night free PDF. And it's just a really simple way to kind of get to know your spouse. Maybe it'll spice it up. Get to know your spouse all over again. This getting to know you again date night. So it came about because one time my husband and I went out to breakfast on a Saturday, which we do, every couple of months, not real often, but we went out to this restaurant and he got a side of toast and the basket came and was sat by the waitress on our table. And he was like digging through it. And I said, what are you doing? And he said, well, I'm looking for the orange marmalade. And I thought, orange marmalade, why don't you just have the strawberry jam or the grape jelly or whatever that's in there? And he's like, oh no, I absolutely love orange marmalade. Well, at this point we had been married for over 25 years, like over a quarter century. And I never knew he liked orange marmalade. And I thought, how did I not know that about you? And so we started to just talk about our childhood and talk about things we've loved and talked about things, we've hated. And like, we found out that he hated liver and onions that his mom used to make when he was young. I actually liked it. I wouldn't eat it today, but I actually liked it. So anyhow, all of that made me think, what other things about my husband do I not know? Because we've just been so busy doing life, carting the kids around, paying the bills, mowing the lawn, doing the laundry, that we don't really sit down and get to know each other like we do if you're first dating someone. You really want to ask them questions. So I came up with this document that has all these questions to ask your spouse. What was their most loved toy they wished was under the Christmas tree when they were younger? Or, what class did they love the most in high school? What class did they hate the most? Just different things about their past. Yeah. And you can just run it off and go out, someplace really cheap for dinner. My husband and I like to get, buy one, get ones or Groupons or whatever, and just kind of work your way through these questions to get to know your spouse all over again by finding out some things about them that you never knew.
That is so fun. That's so fun. Are there other encouragements that you would have from Keep Showing Up from that book for people?
Well, the book is all about marriage, and the subtitle is How to Stay Crazy in Love When Your Love Drives You Crazy, because, often opposites attract when you're dating, and then you get married and then opposites attack. And so we get to places where we get difficulties in marriage. And the book's not, for someone in a really dire situation that really needs to go get counseling. It's just for the normal, everyday ups and downs of marriage. And so a couple of the key points of that book I like to drive home is, first of all, that marriage is hard and it's not about you. We think it's about us. We think, we're going to marry someone and they're going to complete me and they're going to make me happy. And that's not what happens. Really, your marriage is more about the gospel than it is about you. And your marriage is a message and people are watching you preach, so are they going to see the gospel and the forgiveness and the redemption in your marriage? And then I would say two other things I like to remind people of is that your husband is your husband, but he's also your brother in Christ. And so sometimes I think when I'm treating my husband really nasty, I think, would I would I treat Dwayne this way? Would I, treat Anthony this way? They're friends of ours, they're Christians, we've been friends with them for years, and I would never talk to them like how I'm talking to my husband right now. So I kind of preach that to myself when I'm starting to get a little heated that, okay, yes, he's my husband, but he's also my brother in Christ, and I need to speak to him like I would anybody else. And then finally, I think to remind yourself that your husband is your husband. He's not your God. Only God can know your every thought, which I think my husband should know everything I'm thinking, right? Only God can meet all your needs. Only God can satisfy you in the long run and to satisfy you deeply. So quit going to your husband for things you were meant to go to God for.
Yes. If you don't mind me just interjecting one thing, well, actually two things. One is that we were speaking with a marriage counselor earlier in the month, and she was saying that exact same thing, that, we can often set up our spouse as our God, and they will let us down because they were never meant to be our God. Only God can fill those holes. And I shared with her that was definitely a point in our marriage where I had really sought him to be that savior for me, and it just wasn't going to work at all. And by the grace of God, I found the one true God. And so my sweet husband was off the hook. God bless him. So now we can just be husband and wife, and it's wonderful. But the other neat thing is we were looking at your book, Keep Showing Up, and you talked about marriage being a testimony to others. My parents have been married 64 years.
Wow.
And my mom is 87. And one day in December, they were out at a restaurant. They'd had an appointment or something. And so they stopped at this restaurant. And I didn't realize this until later, but I guess they were sitting on the same side of the booth. So there was a booth, but they sat on the same side and just enjoyed dinner together. And a woman walked up to, well, actually the waiter came up to them at the end and said, you don't have a bill that's been taken care of for you. And a woman came up to them later and said, when I'm your age, I want to have a marriage just like yours. And I thought, that's exactly what it is. It was looking at each other and just being themselves, but their marriage spoke to other people in that restaurant that day. So yeah,
I love that.
Total testimony to what you wrote about.
Valentine's Day is often focused on couples, but you have a special way of honoring singles at Valentine's Day. Can you share your idea from the book, Stop Letting Others Be Singled Out?
Sure. I think this was 3 years ago that this happened. I have a lot of friends who are single. Some are, in their 20s and some are in their 50s. And for them, often Valentine's Day is a really painful day. One of them jokes that it's Singles Awareness Day. That's what she said. She said, it's not Valentine's Day, it's Singles Awareness Day. I'm very aware that I'm single on that day. And so one year for Valentine's Day, my husband and I decided not to do anything for each other. We weren't going to buy each other a gift. We weren't going to go out to dinner or go to a movie or anything. And we were going to take the money that we would have spent. And instead, we were going to send a single red rose with a little card to all of the single women in the ministry that I work for, Proverbs 31 Ministries. So I did a little digging to find out who all was single and not dating anybody, because a couple of them were about ready to get engaged. I knew they were going to get something for Valentine's Day. Yeah. So I called a local florist. I live in Michigan. My ministry is Proverbs 31 is based in North Carolina. So I called a local florist down there and said, I want to order 16 roses. I actually was able to get a little bit better deal. I think there were 3 roses per person because cut, when I told her what we were doing, she cut me a deal. So anyhow, I had them delivered on Valentine's Day to the office. And they were from my husband and I. And we said, we just want you to know that you are deeply loved by God and by the Ehmans. And when that florist walked in the front door of the office, so many of the single girls thought, well, those aren't for me. I'm not dating anybody. So a couple of them were recently divorced. And it was so funny to see them walk past all the married women and be handing all these bouquets of flowers out to all the single gals. And my phone just blew up that day with girls that were crying. One of them, her boyfriend of, I think 7 years, had just recently, like 2 days earlier, broken up with her.
Oh my.
And one of them said she had driven to work that day, hadn't dated anybody in years, been single for a long time. And she said, Lord, it'd be really great if I got some flowers today. I'm tired of seeing everybody, get flowers. Maybe maybe one of my kids will send me flowers. Well, instead, here, she got these from us. And I'm telling you, my husband and I sat there that night. It was a Friday. And for our Valentine's Day, we had frozen thin crust veggie pizza and a root beer. And we watched reruns of Shark Tank. And it was the best Valentine's Day we've ever had. Aww. Because, there is something about living that way where you try to make someone else's day who doesn't have life as well off as you. That brought way more joy to my life than going out to dinner and a movie. As much as I love my husband's company, it was much more fun. And I felt like we had a purpose in taking what we would have spent on ourselves and doing something for a single friend instead.
Yeah. That was just such a neat story. I absolutely loved it. It's so obvious from looking at your books and from also even reading your biography that that you are very, very busy, loving others really, really well, but also being an outstanding and prolific writer. And it actually begged the question to me, how do you do it all? How do you prioritize your time so that you can be available to others as you are, but also you're writing and you're speaking and you're doing so many other things. So how do you prioritize that time?
Well, first of all, I don't do it all. That's how you do it all, is you have to really kind of strategically decide what you're going to do and not do. And I actually remember sitting in a baseball game once when I had somebody ask me that question. And you asked it in a very sweet way. This person kind of asked it in a little bit like, must be nice. How do you do it all? Just kind of like, you must be neglecting your family or whatever. And she said, I had just started a blog. This was like over 10 years ago. And I had just started a blog. I'd written like 5 books and was homeschooling my kids and doing a little bit of speaking on the side. And she was like, I just don't know how you do everything. I just don't know how you do it. And I said, well, because I don't. Like, I think what people say, think sometimes when they say that is they take what their life is like, and then they think, if I lived my life that I'm currently living now, plus on top of that, I started to write books and I started to go speak and I started to have a part-time ministry, I could never do it. But what that person didn't know is I said to her, well, can you tell me something? What are your favorite TV shows? And she thought, well, that's a weird question. I said, oh, just really, what are your favorite TV shows? And she said, oh, Dancing with the Stars. And that was back when it was like a 2-hour thing. And she said, and Survivor. And she named off these shows. And I said, do you ever miss those shows? Oh, no, I never miss them. I said, do you multitask? Like, are you folding laundry and you're watching? Oh, no, I'm focusing. And I counted up. I said, that's 5 hours of TV that I do not watch. I don't watch TV. Once in a while, I watch the news, and we like to watch reruns of Family Matters and Everybody Loves Raymond around our house. And occasionally I'll watch Shark Tank with my husband, but I don't watch 5 hours of TV a week. Right. I was doing a blog, but my blogging was taking me maybe 2 hours a week. So that was 2 hours. I still had another 3 that I didn't watch TV, So I think we all eventually get it all done because we get everything done that we think is a priority. That's what we leave on our plate. So for me, I rarely go out with a friend to lunch. I have the same woman I was talking to and some of my other friends, they go out to lunch with a friend every week. They go shopping with their sister-in-law, once a month for a whole long Saturday. I don't do any of that. So for me, I had to kind of lay my priorities out, of my family, my ministry, neighbors and friends. And some things just don't make the cut. And I don't really have a lot of hobbies, although I have started to do, what is it called? Embroidery again. Because I thought, somebody told me if you work with your brain a lot, you should do something with your hands for relaxation. So I'm kind of starting to do that, but it's only like, a couple minutes here and there. But I think we all make time for what we think is important. And we need to realize that somebody else that does something different from you, there's probably things in your life that they're not doing. So you could probably do what they do, or you could probably free up the time, but we all make time for what's important. And sometimes in my mind, I like number my priorities. And I'm thinking, well, God's first, and then my husband, then my kids, and then my, extended family, and on and on and on, down to, some friends that I'm not super close to, but they're kind of more acquaintances. Well, if some of them are really wanting a lot of my time and they're always saying, oh, let's grab coffee, or, hey, can I call you and pick your brain for a while or whatever, I'm thinking like they're a number like 7 or 8 priority. And my number 3 priority, my 23-year-old son is sitting here, who's about ready to move out, and we'll be empty nesters. He's renting from us right now, but he's about ready to move to a different state. I'm going to spend my time with number 3 rather than number 8, Not that your friends aren't important, and I don't sometimes grab coffee with an acquaintance, but I think when we really look at what we say our priorities are, and then look at how we spend our time, it's a real reality check when those 2 don't line up.
That's very true. Yeah, absolutely. Well, you've recently done exactly what Karen was just describing, of saying no to some things so that you could be with her son, who just
just moved him a week last week on Thursday, the Chicago area. So yes, we'll send you a little note when that happens. It was a big change.
Sure.
Karen, we are so grateful that you have made time in your busy schedule to join our fledgling vlog as we have shared with you before, we invite people to the table of fellowship that often involves hospitality.
Right, for sure.
And that's why we both really enjoyed your book. We discovered some new wonderful ways to invite others into fellowship that we might all enjoy the sublime soiree together. We have discovered, and your book reiterates, that a Savior-focused life is a sublime life. Would you have any other encouragements for our audience about living in that way?
It may sound like a Sunday school answer, but really just make it a matter of prayer. I think when we can get our eyes off ourselves, that's one thing my mom used to always say to me is get your eyes off yourself, honey. And, every morning just pray, Lord, help me to notice that person today who least expects to be seen. Tap me on the heart when that mom who's struggling with the screaming baby and the toddler grabbing stuff off the shelves in the grocery store needs a smile and a, hey, hang in there, you're doing an important work, interrupt my day and rearrange my schedule so that I'm noticing those people. It really does make life an adventure, and it gives you purpose instead of always thinking life has to be about you and what's in it for me. Instead, we can be on the lookout and be a noticer. And God he's faithful. He will bring people our way that need love and encouragement.
As you wrote your book, Karen, did you have any ideas in your own head about how people might utilize the book? Or did you have any conversations with your publisher? Or have you heard any feedback from people who've already been reading it in terms of ways that they want to be utilizing it? Picking out an idea at a time or getting a little more formal about it?
Yeah, I envisioned it being kind of just a book that sits on the coffee table that you reference when you need an idea, when there's a holiday coming up or a holy day or just, an ordinary day. And of somebody that needs a little encouragement, little pick me up, could use a little encouragement. And I also, in the book, I talk about getting a calendar and then writing maybe just one person's name per week, like every Saturday, just write down someone's name. And when it comes to that Saturday, look at that calendar and pick an idea and do it for them. And then I had one reader, I was actually on a Facebook Live where people could ask questions live to me. And someone didn't have a question, but they had an idea. They said that they took the book and they're going to do all 101 ideas. And every time they do one, they wrote down who they did it for and the date. So they kind of made it a little bit of a journal.
Yes. Wow. Oh, I love that. Awesome. That's fantastic. Well, we know that people are really going to want to go out and buy these two books and some of your others as well. So what is the best way for them to reach you and to connect with you and connect with your writing materials?
The best way is just to go to my website, which is KarenEhman.com. And again, Ehman is EHMAN. And there they'll see all my social media. They'll see all my books. And if they aren't sure if they really want to buy one of my books, they can download one of my free PDFs that I have. I have that date night one I spoke about. I have some different 5-day devotional challenges, like ones on using our words wisely. And there's another one on loving others well. And so they can sign up for that and they'll be sent those devotions for 5 days in a row in their email to get a little taste of my writing. So just going to my website's the easiest.
Fantastic. Okay.
Well, Karen, thank you so much again for your time. Friends, we want to share with you that we are going to be sharing free giveaways this week of Karen's books. So keep an eye out on our Facebook pages and Instagram. We know you have enjoyed hearing this wisdom. I know it's been an encouragement to us.
For sure. Thank you so much, Karen. And friends, we really would love to expand the guest list at the soiree table. So we would just encourage you to subscribe to our YouTube channel and also invite some other friends to do the same because we love to fellowship with each and every one of you. But in the meantime, know that we are praying that your week is sublime and that every day is free above the fray.